All right, hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm here with Matty B. He's back. You can see him this week. And Rick David. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with a little bit of high tempo first. My high tempo for this week, I'm going to kick it off, is the Cleveland Indians fading out their logo. And I don't know if it was due to public pressure, but they're getting rid of Chief Wahoo, which was one of the big staples if you ever watched the movie Major League. Favorite movie of mine, one of my top sports movies. I love it. Used to watch it all the time. They have guys that would play like drums in the outfield, all kind of stuff. The team identity was built around it, and they're getting rid of it, phasing it out by, I think, 2019 or 2020, something like that. So it's not immediate, but they wanted to let everyone know that, hey, we are going to phase this out, and we really don't know where we're going to go next. And that brought back into light the Redskins, and the NFL came out with a statement saying that they are not changing their name, which I'm glad they're not, because that was a team name based around a kind of a shout out to one of their first coaches, so who was Native American. So I'm glad that that's sticking around. Sad to see Chief Wahoo go. And I don't know what they're going to go with, a plain C. Hopefully it's not the C that they've been using, because that's pretty boring. No history. Go back. You can even look at their historical logos, but very sad news. I don't know why they're doing that. And to me, that's just crazy. Why change a team identity? Just go with something totally different. But that's just me. What do you got this week, Matt?
I was actually just saw an article that said 2 Nebraska football players were hospitalized with rhabdomyolysis. This is the second straight year where players are starting their winter off-season conditioning programs, and basically with this rhabdo, what it does is it potentially leads to players having like kidney issues because they're pushing their muscles too hard. And one of the players was a wide receiver, one of them was a defensive lineman, so it's spaced out, like not just a particular body type or the other guy's out of shape, but I think it's something to watch in upcoming years of how teams address their off-season programs and conditionings, because it definitely looks like teams, especially with the new wave of coaches transitioning in with new strength coaches, players are being affected by this.
I think that's fake news, Matt, that you're spewing, because if you remember, what was it, about maybe a decade ago now, the Iowa Hawkeyes program was hit with that. They had a disappointing season. Kirk Ferentz went out and he had like a man day where everyone went out and they worked out really hard to kind of, so he could prove to see who was going to work out hardest. They did some crazy things like thousands of squats and things like that were outrageous, but a bunch of guys got hospitalized, nothing too threatening. And I think it's just something that happens whenever kids overwork themselves. They might want to be proving themselves by, hey, we're going to do all this new coaching staff. I want to show that I'm going to work my ass off here. And I think that's why you see a lot of kids get hurt. But it's happened before. Nothing's really become of it. And I think it's just because of kids. They're just trying too hard and they don't know the science behind it. But I don't know. You have any rebuttal for that?
Exactly. But I think that there's a big, like, there's so much more of an emphasis now on player safety, that they're wearing these trackers, they're wearing this, they're wearing that. Back when Iowa had those issues with it, you're absolutely right. They didn't have the knowledge that they have now. Like with the science and the direction that they're going with it, it blows my mind that you're going to still have these issues. I mean, even last year you had Oregon where they put a bunch of guys in the hospital for it. You know, it's crazy.
Well, Scott Frost is a previous Oregon coach, so maybe you got a connection there. You just got to be careful, because isn't that a Florida State thing now? They hired that guy. So
that's right.
You championed him as a coach.
And we haven't had anyone in the hospital.
But now you're concerned about player safety after he's the coach, after he signs on the dotted line.
After he signed, they haven't made any issues with. He has not put any players in the hospital. He learned from his mistakes in Oregon, and they grew from it. But I just think that, to me, it's something now going forward where if you're going to push player safety and you're going to say that we care about the well-being of our athletes, well, then they shouldn't be laying up in the hospital. Unacceptable.
All right, we'll end with that. Rick, what do you got this week?
Okay. My story, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my story is actually from a FanRag story, which I've not heard anybody talk about it. But Tanner Houck, who's a top Red Sox prospect, was one of the latest players to lead the agency of CSE. So it's an agency which has all the agents for players. Now, here's the list of names that have already left the agency: Mitch Keller, Jake Odorizzi, Riley Pint, Joey Wards, Cody Ashley, and Taylor Gushy, there's another former prospect. All these guys have left this agency because they have there's been questionable practices. They have had weird videotapes. There's even supposedly videotapes of some of the players even showering out there. So a lot of players are quitting them and leaving this agency. So this is how weird it is now, that players are quitting this because of the weird things, and it's secret cameras that they have at their facilities, these agents have. So weird story, but just one of the list of many players and weird stories that are coming out lately that should never be happening. Why are you taping your own players that you have in your agency, and why are you taping them when they're going to take a shower? So random weird stuff, but that was one story I saw, which I didn't see anybody covering except for FanRag did cover it.
Why were the kids showering there?
I don't know if they were using it as a training facility or something, or just testing everybody out, or were they doing work there?
Teaching people how to properly bathe.
I guess, but I don't know why an agency, your agent is telling you, not unless they said it's some training workout facility they own.
Yeah,
these guys were all just trained.
I think you would notice the cameras. I mean, if they're going to get any quality, it's not like there's not the technology where you're going to have like hidden cameras, especially if it's in a waterproof environment like that. And just a tip for like kids, if you're anywhere in a situation where anyone's like trying to make you shower or do weird stuff, like social media exists. You don't have to be worried about talking to someone. Just put it out there and things will get done, because that goes on the heels of the Michigan State thing. I was going to try not to bring it up, but there's more light. Tom Izzo, he got grilled on an interview after their game on Sunday. He looked dead. He looked defeated because they were saying that there were like a couple basketball players that were under investigation that had been covered up, and they wanted to know why the kid left the team. And it turned out that he was like a coach, and he was living in Tom Izzo's basement. And Tom Izzo's like, I just don't remember. And he looked shook. And it's just like a weird thing. Like when you have these situations, and a lot of the girls back then, they didn't have the benefit of the doubt when they were getting attacked by Nasser or however you pronounce that guy's name. They didn't have social media. So people didn't believe them, and they really didn't have anywhere to go. Because that was like 1990s. That was before smartphones. Really, even in the 2000s, you could post that on message boards. And there were rumors and stuff out there. If you search back, I don't know if he was ever named, but there were definitely things of cover-ups, and other ladies are speaking up now. But today, kids, be safe. Look out for yourself. Tell your parents. I mean, put it out on social media. Tell your friends, like, someone speak up. Even create a dummy account and just put it out there. Because it doesn't matter. You just need someone to see it. You can contact news stations directly, and it's basically their job to do investigative reporting. So don't be afraid. I mean, you don't have to use your real name if something like that happens, but it's just baffling. Like, why would they be showering there? It was baseball, right, Rick?
These are all baseball prospects. Some of them have made it to the majors. Odorizzi is now pitching in the majors. Cody Ashley has a minor league contract, but he could make the majors this year. I mean, Mitch Keller is a top 20 prospect for the Pirates. And I think Riley Pint made 100 on the MLB list, the pipeline list of overall prospects. So, I mean, these guys are going to be future major leaguers here. So,
I mean, I played college baseball, and I'll tell you, I've never been in a situation where I left practice and have felt like, man, I really need to take a shower, because you really don't run a lot in baseball. And even whenever you do, it's mostly in spring training where it's cold, unless you're down in the South. So I don't know. I'd be very skeptical of things like that. So just a word of warning. I'll throw it out there. Weird way to start the show, but whatever. You got to protect yourself, guys. Listeners out there, tell your family members, little kids, if you have little brothers, sisters, cousins, whatever, talk to them. Especially if you're older. I'd assume people listening to this are older. If you have anyone younger, give them a heads up. If they're ever in a weird situation, just tell someone and try to get the stuff out there, because the longer you wait, the better chance that these attackers have to get someone else. You don't want that. So we'll change gears here, switch into the Steel City update. I was going to come into this positive, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Rick, but it looks like the Penguins have turned it around. Of course, until tonight, they were up 1-0, but it was 2-2.
3-2, they're up.
Oh, they're back
they're
up.
winning.
I saw that they got down 2 goals to the Sharks. They tied it up really quick. But let's see. I had the official stats. They've had a great 10-game streak going into the game tonight. They had a 2-goal differential. They're negative still. But if you remember, we've been talking about this for a while. Their goal differential, they've been down double digits for most of the season. So they're back up to 2. They are in 3rd in the Metropolitan Division, 7-3 in the last 10. I think the All-Star weekend, which we're going to talk about later in the show, is at a great time for them. Looks like they're really starting to click around. If they get the win tonight, they're going to be in the driver's seat, because right now they're tied with the Blue Jackets. If they win, they're going to be in second. I guess they're tied for second right now. They're behind the Capitals. And I'll just say this, the Capitals are kind of like the little brother to the Penguins. They never beat them. So I don't care if they finish ahead of the Penguins. Just make the playoffs, like I said all along. I'd like to get your thoughts on the Penguins, Rick. Do you think they're finally starting to turn the corner? I don't want to get too excited, because I know a lot of teams hit that wall late February, early March. But we've talked about this all along. Now's the time to turn it on and get ready for a run. What do you think?
I think this is the time. And they're getting players back from injury. Ian Cole's back in the lineup today, so he's out of the doghouse for the 2nd or 3rd time this season. Matt Hunwick is injured currently, so he's out for a while. It looks like they're turning everything around at the right time. I believe they just scored again it's still 3. Looks like it's still 3-2. But, they're turning it around. And Malkin's done great after he is getting snubbed in the All-Star game. He got snubbed again this year. You can say Kessel got snubbed again this year. But, you always, when those things happen, when he feels he gets snubbed, like after he didn't make the top 100 players of all time, but Duck and Keith made it. When after he gets snubbed, he goes crazy. So, this is Malkin's time to go crazy, and proved it, because he was struggling to be in the top 3 in the point scores at different points this season with the Penguins. So I think it is. Murray's back. Murray had his family problems that happened with the passing away of his father. But now he's back in. Maybe he can concentrate more and not worry so much. And Casey DeSmith's been like the unsung hero of the team. So if you ever want to give the unsung hero award, it's Casey DeSmith, who came out of nowhere, who was at one time a goalie in Wilkes-Barre, then came up to the Baby Pens. This guy's been unsung hero for this team, and the backup goalie they needed, because they've been struggling in that spot this year. So I think, yes, this is the time they turn the corner. Maybe they trade for a Mark Letestu or somebody else that's out there. No, please do not start the Jaromir Jagr to Pittsburgh rumors. That won't happen. It's done. He screwed himself years ago when he had the shot here and he went for the money in Florida or somewhere.
Why would they even want him?
He's too old.
It's like Julio Franco. He's like Julio Franco version of the NHL.
Yeah,
but Pittsburgh would make so much dollars and cents. You could sign him, and his jersey sales would go through the roof.
Man, they just need to type his name up, and they would already sell the jerseys without him coming back. He doesn't even have to play. Just say, "Hey, Jaromir, you want to come in and do like a spot?" They do like a jersey thing, and he gives a wave. They'd sell him. He doesn't have to suit up. It's not like they need an old man out there skating around.
No, no, they don't need him. I think one day he will sign that one-day contract thing, and they will retire his number and everything. I think that will happen in Pittsburgh. But I agree. You either go after Letestu, or you go big and you go after and get Evander Kane from Buffalo, because they're not playing for anything in Buffalo. Sorry to say, they're done. But, you get Kane, who's another guy, quicker guy, good shot, is definitely a good winger. They could use that. Evander Kane's your guy to go get. I know almost, You could accuse me of being a closet Sabres fan, which I am. But Evander Kane makes perfect sense for this team because he doesn't need to be a star. He'll come in and be a middle star on this team. So, where in Buffalo, he is the star outside Eichel.
Yeah, I think it's set up for a run. Matt, any thoughts?
Kind of thought just along the same lines. I think that they're finally getting some consistent play out of the goal spot, and that's why you're seeing them pick up some more wins as consistently as they're getting with the more consistent goaltending. I think the more wins you're going to see. The one thing that's really helped them the last couple of years with their cup runs has been that they've been able to have Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury together. With Fleury going to Vegas, they needed that number 2 goaltender so that they could give each other breaks once playoffs hit. And I think if they get that consistent play, that's going to be another thing to help them as they come down the stretch in the playoffs.
All right, I think we're all excited. I'm just trying to hold mine back a little bit until we get a little bit more past this break. But we're going to talk about NHL at the end of the show. Let's still stay with Pittsburgh, and I wanted to just touch on the Pirates. I know I've been trying to do some research to kind of see what their mindset is, but they've been doing a lot of like farewell stuff. I saw a lot of articles pushed out on McCutchen and how he's been great. I feel bad for him. I wish as a guy, like if I was an agent, I would hope that he would never have ever played in Pittsburgh, because it's kind of like he wasted his best years for a team that was never really going to compete. They had the 1 or 2 years, but they weren't invested in it. So I feel bad for him. I mean, as a fan, you can't not feel bad for him. Now he's out in San Francisco. I don't think they're set up to make a run. So it's kind of like he's going out there in the twilight, and he'll just kind of fade away. Maybe he will come back, sign that 1-day contract with Pittsburgh, and retire as a Pirate, which is just a PR stunt. It's a joke. They could have just kept him. If you're going to cut everyone, why not just keep your one Pirate and try to keep him there his whole career? But I did see a lot of the fan sentiment, Rick, and I brought this up right before the show to get you fired up. A lot of people think that the Pirates are the second worst franchise of the past like 20 or 30 years, and the worst is the Brewers. And you were high on the Brewers in their rebuild, and they're looking like Pirates are going to be picked ahead of them again this year. Brewers was a one-hit wonder for one playoff run?
Yeah, I mean, you can look over the Brewers' history. The year they traded for Ceci, I'm not remembering a year off the top of my head. When they made the huge trade and got him, they traded 5 guys, and they traded their future. At that time, they blew their future. I mean, Michael Brantley was gone. Matt Laporta was in that trade. There's a pitcher that I can't never remember. But there were like 5 top prospects. They lost 5 out of their top, I think, 15 in that trade to get Ceci, and they made the big run. What happened? Ceci went to Yankees. They got screwed. They don't have those prospects. I mean, the thing with the Brewers is the Brewer fans have been let down in years because they make these runs. They look good, then they tank it, and they do like a Pirate resell and get rid of everybody. The thing is, they brought the front office and parts of the Astros front office in that knows how to do the rebuild. Look what they just did in the past week. They got Kane, their former guy who they traded at one point to Kansas City. They bring him back, and now they also have Christian Yelich. They spent some prospects. What they're going to do is they're going to spin off. They're going to trade Domingo Santana and maybe get a 4th overall pitch. They need a 4th pitcher in that rotation. They get number 4. They got it. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And do I think the Brewers fans are upset? Heck yeah. Do I think the Pirate fans are upset? Yeah. Because all they know is Kutch, because that's all that Robbie and Spakowski talked about. That's all that Steve Blass was pretty much, I think, dating him on the side. I mean, it's like my theory that Jordy Mercer has to play because he's dating Clint Hurdle. I don't understand why he has to play 6 games out of 7 a week. But the thing is, the Pirate fans, if you're a Pirate baseball fan, you should be expecting a rebuild to a teardown. Rebuild to a teardown. It's been constant. Should McCutchen have stayed? No. Were the Pirates going to re-sign him after this season? No. Was this the time to trade him? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if he has a good first half of the season, then you trade him at the trade deadline. But what if he tanks in the beginning of this half? I mean, the Pirate fans, Yinzer Nation, I think, believed that we still had a run. I mentioned to you guys before McCutchen trade, before Cole trade, we predicted them to go 4th. Even after the Cole trade and McCutchen trade, they could probably still get 4th place in the division. I mean, it's not going to matter. I mean, the Brewers are too good. The Cubs are too good. The Cardinals are too good. Matt's Cardinals. I'll even say that. But I mean, it's the economics of baseball. Baseball stinks if you're in a small town. See Cincinnati, see Milwaukee, see Pittsburgh. You can mention other teams in there. Minnesota could be one you could say. I mean, there's teams out there. So,
but you know what? These teams need to then petition the league and put in some kind of either make the cap stricter, do things to prevent the teams like Yankees that just say, well, we don't care. We'll spend, $17 billion over their payroll and just pay whatever tax on top of it. Strip them of their ability to sign these players, set a salary cap and say, you have to be at this amount. And you're not going to go over and you're not going to pay it, because if there's enough of these small market franchises or quote small market franchises, they need to quit being major league farm teams. If they stand together and they say, we're not going to do it this way, you need to be united on this, then it makes more sense. Otherwise, you consistently take teams like Pittsburgh that say, oh, well, we're just a small market team and we can't compete with the Yankees. Well, then you're never going to be good if that's the mindset that you have, that you think that you have to spend. There's successful teams that use that small ball approach. They just use it effectively. They're looking at how can we make our team good instead of what can we set the prices of hot dogs and hamburgers at the ballpark and make the most revenue off it. I mean, if you're going to be a small market, be a small market, but then don't bellyache when teams are spending or being willing to try to make moves to make their teams more competitive.
That's why.
Yeah, and I think that.
Go ahead, Rick.
You go ahead, Rich.
No,
I was going to say that's.
I'll end it. Go ahead.
I said that's what's going to happen in your next collective bargaining agreement is you're going to have somehow you're going to have a bottom cap because you have teams like the Padres, Pirates, Reds. I can't remember the other bottom tier teams now are spending like Miami. There's another one. Are not spending anything. They're going to have to at least go to 80 to 85 to 90, 95 million, somewhere in that range from 80 to 95 million. They're going to have a bottom salary cap. I think they're still going to have the higher salary cap. But if you look at the Pirates and all these teams, you're getting that $50 million from the baseball TV contract. Plus, you're getting the collective bargaining money. I mean, teams like Miami and Pittsburgh, your payroll's already paid for right now if you don't go and sign somebody big. I mean, so I agree with these bigger teams that are saying these little teams got to spend. But I think there's also got to be a cap at the higher range, too, saying, hey, you have to spend 80, but you should not go over 200. Like, you can't go over 200. I think it's got to be more closer to an NBA cap where but a little bit stricter, saying you can't go over a number, but you can't be under a number. So I think it's got to be a lot tougher.
I think I agree with you. And I think eventually down the line, with the way TV's going, TV's been a big funding reason why this happened. And I'm hoping that it's going to, right now it's trending more regional. So there's going to be local networks and local teams. And what I would like to see, and I think we had something that we had talked about, we teased early in this show, and we haven't finished putting the final touches on yet, but doing like a comparison with different teams and different leagues. And I would like to see the Major League Baseball either join up with other countries and do a true World Series with maybe like Japan and Korea and Cuba and all the other countries like they kind of do with the World Baseball Classic, or just go to a Premier League relegation delegation league where if a team like the Pirates you're not going to pay, drop them to the minor leagues and then see how the ownership, that would force the ownership to actually pay for players, because if they drop to that lower league, and if you're not familiar, it's the way the English Premier League for soccer does it. They have the big spenders, like, oh man, I can't even.
Chelsea.
What's the other one? What's the other big one?
Darn.
I can't.
LFC, Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah, so they have the big dogs, and then they also have the small dogs, where if you want a team, let's say like right here, I live in Raleigh, so the Durham Bulls, national champs, AAA, let's say their ownership says, we're going to take a crack at playing in the major leagues next year. We have a national championship caliber team here for the minors. They get promoted, and then you have whatever the lowest team in Major League Baseball, they drop down a division. And then that way you have a team like Pittsburgh who's not quite there, but you're having all these other hungry owners come in, paying for teams that eventually they're going to have to pay to put up a good team, or they're going to drop to minor leagues, and maybe the ownership would be fine with that. And maybe overall it'd be worse for Pittsburgh Pirate fans. But I think you would have a lot more on the downside, like some of the minor league Pirates teams like the Altoona Curve might go away in a situation like that. But I honestly think that's where you're going to end up. And we'll be doing some type of baseball preview in a couple weeks after the Super Bowl. We also have signing day coming up, but we'll get back around to that. So we'll go ahead for the Steelers segment. We're just going to get right into the Super Bowl preview, kind of like a stab in the back. But the Steelers had their chance. They talked a lot of trash and didn't get it done. So now we're looking at my man, Tom Brady. 6. You know, guys, if he wins this one, he's going to have to put his ring on the other hand. Or he'll have to do some type of split up because he'll have the most rings. Well, he already has the most rings of a quarterback of all time. But he'll basically have as many rings as the entire Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. Kind of hurts me to say. I don't really know, but I'm excited. I think he has a chance here against Nick Foles, and a lot of people have been talking trash on Nick Foles, but they put up his stats against Carson Wentz. He's slightly better in his career as an Eagles starting quarterback than Carson Wentz has been. And he was good when they had, I think a lot of his stats might have came when he was with Chip Kelly there, but he knows the players. He has chemistry. I think the Eagles are definitely going to put up a fight. So I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on this. We'll start with you, Matt. What do you think of for the Super Bowl? Who do you got?
I thought about it. I'm going to go with the upset with the Eagles. I know that they have the toughest challenge ahead, but I think that Philly has a healthy offensive unit. Alshon Jeffrey has somehow managed to avoid the massive injury bug. They have a strong running game, and I think that of all the teams that New England has played thus far, I think Philly has a shot to match firepower for firepower. So I think I kind of like my chances with the Eagles winning it all. Plus, I like the fact that their police station pretty much just said it's going to be a free-for-all. They're not Criscoing the telephone poles. They're just going to pretty much let the city burn. So I kind of see Philly pulling this one out.
Well, Matt, they do have how many years of not winning championships, so they kind of just feel like they'll just lose, and they won't have to worry about that stuff. It's kind of a waste of manpower to be preemptive for just another Super Bowl meltdown. Remember that Donovan McNabb year?
Yes, they're showing it on ESPN. They're showing it on NFL Network right now.
Of course they
watch
are.
It for yourself.
Someone even added that on Wikipedia. I saw it was like Super Bowl rivalries, and now they added the Patriots and Eagles for their second one. We don't even know. This could be a complete dud. Let's go ahead, Rick. What are your thoughts?
The thing that I see as being the major factor is, can the Eagles defense get to Tom Brady? The offensive line's good for the Patriots. They're not incredible. But, I mean, I think the thing that the Eagles have figured out is we could put pressure on you, and we could do it, you know. And they are always blitzing players and everything, and they're good enough to hold it down. So, I mean, the thing is with Tom Brady is he has some good, you know, he has the weapons, but can his weapons get open because the Eagles' pass rush is so good? I don't think the running games are going to matter for both teams as much. I think they're going to be there, but I don't think it's going to matter. And I don't think the Patriots have that good of running games. I mean, they have great running games when the referees decide to throw flags, but sometimes when they don't, I mean, they run all over teams. I mean, see the play at the end of the game that gave them the win. But I mean, that's the thing. They have good enough players, but not great. Patriots defense, not great. Good scheme, but not great. I mean, Matt Patricia does a great job. You know, He's one of the best in the game. I'll give him that. And he's gone next year. This is his one last dance. I mean, Rich, you asked the question, how much are you already talking about? You're already talking to your current team, which I think he's on the Lions. I mean, he's already telling coaches, you're hired, you're fired, you're gone, you're hired. It's already happening. So he's already thinking about Lions, but he's still got the Super Bowl and everything to go to. I mean, is this the end of the dynasty? I don't think so, because they're still in the same conference as the Bills, the Dolphins. I mean, other weak teams. So, but I think they're still going to be good. But the thing is, this team is good, but not great. Other teams just stink when they play them. Steelers looked awful playing against them. I mean, they go to the AFC Championship game, and the other team goes with a conservative outlook for no reason at all. The Bills almost beat them twice this year, if you remember correctly. So, I mean, but I think it's really on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. If they play a good game, they won. There's no chance. I mean, because they'll give the ball to the offense, and that offense, there's too many weapons there. There's more weapons with the Eagles offense than the Patriots offense.
I almost wonder with New England if Gronkowski is going to be available, because he was in the concussion protocol from the AFC Championship game. So I know he's starting to practice and he's starting to acclimate, but I don't know if he's going to have the time and able to be cleared in time for the Super Bowl. So I think that may be something to keep an eye on for the game, because it does seem like when he's not playing, Brady seems to play a lot better. When Gronkowski's in, at least from the couple games that I've watched, it seems like he tries to zero in and try to force the ball to Gronkowski, even though the matchups may not be there. So I think offensively, that may be something to watch with New England when they have the ball. Is Gronkowski playing or is he not? Or if he is playing, what kind of packages are they going to utilize him in? Because they may limit his snaps due to the amount of time he's been out with injury.
Yeah, I would say Gronkowski is going to be key. And I would also put it at 99 that he's going to play. There's no way. I know the NFL, they try to do all this concussion stuff, but there's no way they're going to let one of their studs miss the game because of the protocol. And I could be wrong on that, but I would say right now, there's no way he's not going to play. Now, is he going to be effective? I mean, he's been a key on like cheap shots, and the refs kind of let holding on him go. And I think that's where it might look like he's kind of zeroed in at. But I think a lot of times whenever they're allowing teams to just get physical with him, it kind of clogs everything up and messes up the timing of the other routes. So, yeah, whenever he's not in there, you don't have that focus. And, I mean, Gronk was at his best whenever they had another threat on the team. And whenever he's out, it's back to the old Tom Brady with a lot of the crossing routes and things like that to get guys open. And last time he kind of threw a lot of deep balls. So we'll see. The Patriots' defense is pretty bad, both in scoring and yards per game. Eagles are equally bad in scoring defense, but they actually do hold other teams down. So if they can play field position with the Patriots, then they have a chance. But overall, the offense, Patriots have like the number one offense. The Eagles had, in this just total yards, the Eagles had the fourth best defense. So something has to give there. Whenever you have strength on strength and then weakness on weakness, the Patriots defense is like 28th in the league or something crazy. So most teams say that defense wins championships. This is your chance to prove it. I mean, I think we're going to see a better game than what people are thinking. The line was at what? 5.5, maybe more than that. It's been fluctuating a good bit. It was one of the bigger lines in Super Bowl history, I believe. I'm not sure how far back that goes. I was trying to look at a couple different sites, but overall, you're going to have a couple unknowns. What's the Patriots' attack going to look like on offense, and who's going to show up in terms of Nick Foles for the Eagles? Is that going to be some type of weakness for them? I don't know. But should be a good game. Hope Tom Brady wins. Hope he gets another Super Bowl MVP. They're going to be comparing him with Michael Jordan as like the greatest athlete of all time soon. It's only a matter of time. He'll be on the Wheaties box for, I mean, it's ridiculous because he's played like what? How many years has he been in the league? 18. He's made 8 Super Bowls. So almost like maybe he's been in the league less or more than that. But almost half his time, half his seasons, he's been in the Super Bowl, which is a crazy stat. So I don't think it will ever be equaled. You guys have any other things you want to add on the Super Bowl?
Not at this point.
Not
I think we
watching
pretty much hit the nail on the head.
What'd you say, Timberlake?
I'm not watching Justin Timberlake out there. Jeez. Can we get a halftime show that isn't awful, by the way?
It's for
Kendrick
women.
Lamar was terrible.
It's for
And
women,
now
Rick. They want the casual people. Did you see that? I think it was CBS. They're actually having a show this Tuesday. Well, it might have been tonight. That was all Super Bowl ads. It was like
Yes,
the
they
best
did with
Super Bowl
Boomer
ads.
Esiason. It was tonight. Yeah.
The best Super Bowl ads. Who would watch that? You would have to be a complete moron to watch that because it's all advertising. It's kind of like a free segment for these companies that are, A, most likely still around. If you have enough money to throw down for a commercial in the Super Bowl, you're a huge company that's still around today. You have Coca-Cola, Budweiser. I mean, those are still around today.
Oh, yes.
And right tonight, they get a free infomercial on CBS. Oh, let's just replay a bunch of your commercials. I hate watching commercials to begin with. Why would I sit down and watch an hour's worth of them? And then, of course, you have great Boomer Esiason. Isn't he a perennial loser? Couldn't have picked a winner to go ahead and talk about Super Bowls? I mean, did he even win one?
No.
He was Joe Montana's patsy for 3 or 4 years there. So,
Who?
man, that's embarrassing. I don't know why anyone would watch that. And for them to even be promoting it is just outrageous. And we'll use that to segue into another equally outrageous thing, the Pro Bowl. Matt, I put it on here, as you said, Pro Bowl dud. What are your thoughts on that?
What the hell? What the hell was it? I was speechless by it. It was the stupidest thing I've seen. It was like backyard two-hand touch. And I wish they would have advertised it as such so that I wouldn't have wasted time turning it on. I think I understand where you're trying. Players are at risk playing in the Pro Bowl and then getting injured and costing them millions of dollars. And I understand the dollars and cents of that. However, I would think that the league would be smart enough to factor in either insurance policies for these players to ensure that if an injury were to happen, that they could be compensated. Or if you're going to do it that way, turn it into something glorified, like a 7-on-7, where you take your skill guys, and if they're going to play flag football or two-hand touch, do it that way. Don't put it out to be that it's going to be whatever and have it just be this glorified scrimmage that was a complete and utter waste of everyone's time.
Now, I'll
What
be
were
honest.
your thoughts?
I was confused. And so I need you to clear a couple things up for me, just so the listeners are clear. Was it an actual game? Because I kind of flicked it on, and I didn't think they had started playing yet. Did they have pads on?
It looked like they did.
And they had helmets on, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so they weren't just like warming up. They actually played a game. Did they actually tackle to the ground?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but most of the time it's kind of like a wrap-up game over. Like it was like a half game?
I mean, what it almost looked like was, like in high school, we would tell officials, we want quick whistles. So rather than having a guy like standing there trying to fight for extra yardage and then getting clubbed, quick whistles. If it looked like they were going to get a sack on the quarterback, you blow the play dead so that the quarterback doesn't try to take off run. But it saves face for everyone. I didn't realize that that's what they were doing for the Pro Bowl, and I thought that it looked very messy from a viewing standpoint.
Yeah, I think they've been going downhill for the past couple of years. They don't know what to do. What channel did you watch it on? Was it on? I just saw clips and stuff online as I was looking for it, but
Well, it was on basic cable, and I think it was also on ESPN as well. They had two different viewers, and one of the things that I saw statistic-wise is I think it drew the same rating as the Penn State Washington bowl game.
Really?
Is what I think the comparison that I saw was for it.
That is crazy. I'm going to do a little bit of research on that. Rick, did you watch any of the game? Give us your thoughts as I dig into that.
I did, and I kind of agree with the same exact comments Matt said. They were real quick whistles. It was like screen passes and dump passes. It really wasn't anything spectacular. My idea was along the same lines as Matt. Make it a 7-on-7 game. Make it a flag football game. Every division, so the 4 divisions. So if you had the Steelers division, so it's Steelers, Bengals, Browns, and Ravens. You get, get the Pro Bowlers that make up a 7-on-7 offensive and defensively, and you play little games. Hey, you got a 12-minute game with the running clock or something like that, and just go along and do that. And instead of making it 1st down and 10, it's 1st down and 20, something a little bit different, just something. Because, that game was horrible to watch. I feel bad for the people of Orlando. They paid money. And they had to sit in the rain. It rained in Orlando for that, too, if you'd have watched it. So at the end of the game, it was pouring. And at the end of the game, they're trying to say, oh, it's all about money, and the winner gets money. And I'm thinking the top wide receiver for the AFC is over there taking pictures and signing autographs. So if it's all about money and these teams want to win, why is the top wide receiver just chilling with the fans? Wouldn't you want to play this game? It just showed me that nobody cared. It was not about. It was just pat on the back fun game. So it just didn't make any sense.
I like your idea, Rick, of having it division wise, because then at least within the divisions you have a little bit of bragging rights and something competitive that each within the conference they could pick whoever their representatives are going to be. I think like another aspect too is to see what that play calling would look like, because going team to team and trying to get everyone on the same page, I think that would be something interesting for fans to be able to see, and showing some of those different angles and techniques that they would be using for something like that, I think would be good. Plus, they could always do something for the linemen too, do like a tug of war or something like that they do with other things to kind of just get a feel for those guys as well, so that they're being represented. And I think that would be better. The real winners of the Pro Bowl, though, were Drew Brees' kids, who were, I think, we're going to get their butts beat on national TV. Real early during one of the interviews, they're like roughhousing, and you could tell like he was just laying into his one son, saying like he basically gave him the dad, "You're going to go sit with your mother if you don't knock it off."
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing people are saying that the Pro Bowl isn't going to go anywhere just because of the ratings. It says it was on ESPN. I saw clips. I think they should have did more streaming wise, and with the ratings it got, yeah, you're right. It wasn't as high as the Penn State Washington Bowl game. They got a 4.2 rating, which was like they said 7.4 million viewers. So 7.4 million. It was more than pretty much a lot of the bowl games. And the bowl games are kind of ESPN's bell cow there. Now, granted, bowl games, these aren't apples to apples comparison. The NFL Pro Bowl is the only game on at this time. And a lot of these bowl games are shoved on like Tuesday night, Wednesday night, things like that. But if you're looking at it compared to the primetime bowl game slots, it pretty much lost head-to-head to all the big bowl games. The UCF Auburn game was the lowest of the big ones, and it had 8.3 million viewers. And years ago, that never would have happened. The Pro Bowl was always up there with these playoff games. It was always beating most of the top bowl games just because people were into the NFL. It's been falling. I think it was falling in the 2000s. They said that this is the second lowest since like 2006. Of course, this Washington Post article doesn't have the comparison stats, so I'm going back and forth here. But it said that the 3.7 was the least watched, and it had 7 million viewers back in the day. I mean, 7 million is still a crap load, so they're not going to get rid of it. I do like the more regional thing. If they did a division 7-on-7, I think that would be awesome. And I think you could do some type of thing where you're doing like everything's on at the same time, where you get a college football type deal where you can go to ESPN and you have like their multicast or whatever. Go to ESPN2, watch this division, ESPN3, whatever. And you can kind of go back and forth, do like an NFL day. And that's what I kind of wanted to bring up with the NHL All-Star Weekend, because they're kind of turning it into something that I think the NFL should strive for. And I'm going to look and see if I can get some of the stats on this. But I actually enjoy the NHL skills competitions and stuff that they do, because it's pretty impressive and it's kind of cool. And I will say the NHL, they failed on their delivery. They shoved it on NBC Sports Network. You had to have a TV thing to get in. The NHL is killing themselves. That's why I asked if you were able to watch it easy, Matt, because I was looking online. I didn't even try to go to ESPN or whatever for the Pro Bowl. But the NHL, they need to get this stuff, stream it on Facebook Live, put it on Twitter, put it everywhere you can, because they need as many people watching the NHL as they can get. The ratings are the lowest of the big four sports. It's arguably the most exciting sport to watch. Nonstop action, super fast paced. They have high definition television, so it's easy to watch the puck now. You can watch a game. I think the Penguins did go back up as I'm getting into the hockey thing. So they're up 4-2 right now.
They just won.
5-2 is the final. So getting back into it, just watching the game, there's more excitement. And I think the NFL needs to find that too. They kind of do it for, is it the Combine? They usually do things like that with players out of, like going and doing fun things, like Matt said, maybe do a lineman tug of war, do different things like that. But I think they just need to go ahead and take over social media. You got to build it up on Saturday and Sunday and take over the whole weekend and do something. Maybe do 7-on-7s, do like a tournament, do divisional matchups on Saturday. The winners face off on Sunday, and kind of like a 2-day tournament on 7-on-7s. I think that would be awesome, and that would be something a lot of people would watch. But I don't know. What did you guys think? Did you guys watch any of the NHL stuff?
I didn't even realize that it was going on at the same time. That's how poorly publicized it was. It wasn't until we started watching the Pro Bowl that I realized that the NHL All-Star Game was even on.
Yeah, they had 3 games on, which I was a little confused on. So they did, or did they have more than that? So they had...
No, it was 3 games.
It was
your Eastern versus your Western Conference, 2 divisions, and then the champion playing the championship game.
So it was a mini tournament.
You had the 3:30, the 4:30, and then the 5:30 game. So it was like a little mini tournament, 4 teams, single elimination out.
And this was on what, NHL NBC Sports thing, right? I think that's where they buried this stuff. And or was it on main NBC?
I think it was on main NBC, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure I watched it. Now, they did have the skill competition on the night before. That was on NBC Sports.
Yeah, I think that's where they need to promote. Yeah, because like Matt said, we had guests over, and that was what they wanted to watch. Because
it was on NBC.
It is interesting. So yeah, I wasn't the one that turned it on, but someone wanted to watch it that we had as a guest, so we throw it on. And other than that, I didn't realize it was the same weekend as the Pro Bowl, because usually my schedule for sports goes by the NFL. So I know this is going to be, I always thought for some reason it was in February. I know the NBA is, I'm pretty sure. But I just think they need to publicize it more, get it out there, put it on social media. Every time I go on Twitter, I see 8,000 videos of some guy dunking the same exact thing. Why doesn't the NHL do that? I mean, go ahead, show me some of your tricks, show me your stick movements, carrying the puck. They do a lot of cool stuff. They could easily make a ton of GIFs and throw it out there on the web. Start to promote your stuff.
And here's the other thing with the NBA stuff and ESPN. Please, when you're 19 feet tall, it's not that impressive to dunk a basketball. If you're like grabbing the top of the backboard and then dunking off of that, then maybe I'll be impressed. But when you're already, it's like the same thing. we'll go get the Little Tykes basketball hoop and film me dunking on it. Like, nobody's gonna be impressed by that. I hate that. Like, when you're watching SportsCenter and they're showing the top plays, and they got 8 of their 10 top plays are guys that are 9 feet tall dunking on a rim that like they're bouncing their head off of before they even jump. Get some Spud Webb type people, and I'll be impressed.
Yeah, I know, and that's where, like, you have something that everyone promotes the hell out of. They're always on social media. There was a big social media purge this week about people saying that a lot of athletes and teams had, like, bought fake followers. So you have a lot of that, but at some point, someone's putting this content out. It doesn't matter if it's fake or not. If someone's collecting the highlights and putting it everywhere, it's going to make young kids see it, and then they're going to be like, this must be what's cool. The NHL should 100% do that and kind of promote themselves better. They had a chance right here with the NFL. NFL's down. The Pro Bowl, I mean, it was at its lowest rating, but they said right here, the NHL came in at a 1.19 rating, which is like 2-something million people. I could be generous and say 2.4 million people. That's a ton less than what the NFL had. And they had a 3-game tournament going on. I mean, could you imagine what the ratings would be if the NFL decided to do like a 7-on-7 tournament that weekend? It would be outrageous. It would be better than almost all the college football bowl games, pretty much, because you would have a rooting interest in your team. Okay, Steelers are out of it. Let's go. Let's look around. We hate the Bengals. We hate the Browns. We hate the Ravens. Do some type of round robin with your little division there. Do a 7-on-7. Maybe team up, split up the guys, whatever you're going to do, and have a little competition. Ratings would go up because then you have the regional matchups. You're drawing people back in. And the NHL, they tried to do it with their divisions. I wasn't sure how it was split up because I don't understand their division names. The Pacific and Metropolitan. I only know the Metropolitan because the Penguins are in it. But whenever you're splitting things up like that and you're looking at it like, hey, come watch us, but other than what games for the NHL are on main television? The Winter Classic? Do they have any other big games before the playoffs? Even the Stanley Cup, they have split it with their NBC Sports Network. So they need a better TV deal. And, I mean, I feel bad right now. It's the glory days of the Penguins. Let's be honest. It's the glory days right now. Back-to-back champions a few years ago before that. A good chance for another run again. And it's tough to watch them just because of how crappy it is with the TV deal. So I like the All-Star Weekend. I like how they've been evolving it, but they got to promote it. You got to promote it. So that's my end on that. You guys want to add anything else in on either of these? Pro Bowl, All-Star Weekend?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like baseball is how the hockey has divided. Metropolitan's all your kind of your major cities. Atlantic's kind of your non-major cities along the seaboard, and then your Central and Pacific. I mean, then your winners play. I mean, the one thing I did kind of watch and regret was they did have a skills contest for the NFL the night beforehand. And there was like, at one point, it was a dodgeball contest at the end of the tournament who won. But the problem was only 10 guys out of each division show up. So only 10 guys out of the AFC showed up, and only 10 out of the NFC showed up. So that's all it played in this game. I mean, Chris Boswell was one of the guys who showed up because there was a kicking contest.
I didn't even know they did that.
It was the night before they taped it. I think they taped it the day before and then showed it that day.
Oh, well, that's BS. You got to do it live.
Well, the thing was where they were taping it at is Wild World Sports. So anybody knows it's owned by Disney. They showed it at night, but it was daylight. So whatever day they did it, and you could actually see in the background what will eventually be the old spring training place of the Braves in the background. They were doing it on lacrosse fields. I mean, it wasn't even football fields. It was lacrosse fields. What they were doing also, it was just weird, not worth it. But here's the thing in the NHL, every top star took place in the skills contest. So you saw the top goalies, You saw Crosby, you saw Ovechkin, Mershon. I mean, all your top guys all played. I mean, in the skills contest. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury, you got to see him in a Vegas uniform. You know, you got to see James Neal in a Vegas uniform too that night. So it's disappointing what the NHL has, but I think it shows you what happened to the NHL in the 90s after when they lost the ESPN contract, and then, you know, ESPN eventually went to the NBA, and MLB contracts a little bit heavier. So been tough to get an audience, especially in America.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they can do. But I will say this, just bring back the XFL. Did we talk about that last week? Because I'm going to keep talking about it every week until they get some hard news out there. I saw a lot of misinformation pointed out there, and I should just add this as a topic as I talk about it. But like Matt said, you see a lot of the stuff from ESPN. You see a lot of stuff getting pushed out about the random, okay, here's a couple basketball highlights of some guys dunking. Here's them doing this. But overall, they've been touting that this is the best basketball year for TV ratings in a while. 1.4 million people watch a game. That's the average. The XFL had a 3.0 rating for their whole season. That's why ESPN does not want them back, because they're going to go ahead and steal viewers. People don't understand. The reason the XFL failed was because the NFL threatened the TV networks that, hey, if you show XFL games, we're not re-signing with you in a few years. So it kind of gave them the old, tied their hands behind their back. They didn't let them watch it. So if 3.0 was the rating, that usually doubles, and I haven't been able to find like hard numbers because they don't want this out. You're getting what?
That and the top players kept getting crushed because they just throw them out for the opening kickoff.
Well, that one guy was out for the season when he crushed his shoulder or whatever. But yeah, so that's about 6 million people. And that's if I'm just doing like an average, usually a little bit higher or a little bit lower, whatever. But 6 million people watch a game. Some of them were high. I think the first game was like a 9 rating or something crazy. And then, yeah, they see people getting hurt and things like that. But the sports networks, they don't want this back because you're going to take away from, like I've already gone ahead and said it. I think basketball, it's cushier to watch. It's cushier to cover. You're going inside an arena in February, March, which is when the XFL is supposed to be coming out. You're sitting inside an arena. You're there for 2 hours tops. You got your own parking. You drive right up. I mean, I've had box seats for basketball games. I'll tell you how easy it is. You can be in and out of the parking lot in 5 minutes. You sit in the game. It's 2 hours. You get your buffet there for the media table. You get all the food you eat. Eat it up. All you can eat food. Get some beers there they have. I don't think I've never paid for them when I'm there at the game in the box. And then you just tweet about it. Okay, here's some dunks. And then you know the league's going to throw out 13 highlights. You like it. And that's you covering a basketball game. You go home. Now you have the XFL. If it comes back, you damn well know that's not really going to be indoors. They'll be playing at like high school fields or wherever. I think they did play. I know the Chicago team played at Soldier Field. So they play at these big stadiums outdoors in the cold. Media doesn't want to cover that. They don't want to. But that's my ending for the show. I threw it on the topics. XFL. Keep an eye out for it. A lot of people were saying that it was a dud last time. It wasn't a dud. A lot of people watched. And then it wasn't the fact that it was second-rate football. It was the fact that they got pressure from TV execs not to show it. And basically the NFL stole a lot of stuff that the XFL did. They stole the sky cam. They stole a lot of the other camera angles, the sideline cams, and things like that. Go back and watch a game from like 1990s and NFL tape. They always throw them on like NFL Network. Awful. Awful to watch on TV. Go back and watch an XFL game. NFL basically stole every camera angle from the XFL. And I know because me and Matt were probably the only ones that watched like every game that year. So
I did too.
That's my ending. We'll go around the horn one more time. Start with you, Rick. Anything to end on?
Malkin got a hat trick today, so that proved my theory right that Malkin will come back and poised, so that makes sense. Still thinking that. Here's the other thing to watch with the NFL or XFL. They don't have a contract yet. Here's the rumor that I'm hearing. I have no sources to confirm this, but apparently WWE's contract's running out here with NBC sometime. If WWE's contract runs out, Fox wants to purchase them and send them to Monday nights on Fox main TV. Now, that could bring the XFL on Sunday nights during what would be the off season, which would be technically starting next week, which would really be that. So something where they don't have, they could put that game on the Sunday night, or even something along those lines. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things they could play around with. And I think it's going to be something that's NBC's going to have to think of, is they could be losing their highest rated TV show that's on their weekday product. And then they could be losing the XFL, because the XFL was originally NBC. I'm not going to remember the guy's name. He passed away here within the past year, but he was the guy along with Vince McMahon who brought the NFL there. So I'll remember his name later, but that's the other thing. And especially, we're 15 days away from spring training happening. It's going to be a great day when we get to start that. We're less than 60 days away from opening day, and hopefully a couple of days away from the Eagles winning a Super Bowl. So it's going to be great. And Winter Olympics is coming up. Forgot about those. So to watch that. So it's going to be great. This is a great time in sports right now.
Was that sarcasm?
No, I'm being serious. I mean, this is a lot of things happening within like 2 months time frame. It's going to be great.
Before I let you go, Matt, there was one other thing I wanted to add. Clemson basketball has won in Chapel Hill tonight for the first time ever. They've never won at North Carolina. How embarrassing. The other teams, I'm pretty sure teams who else have they lost to? They've lost to someone like High Point or Elon. I mean, it's crazy that Clemson finally got a lead. They had a huge lead today, 20-something. They almost pulled off the Clemsoning. They only won 82-78, but good to see them finally actually win a game at Chapel Hill. Matt, what's your final thoughts today?
I got a pair of things. Number one, I saw that UCF Shaquem Griffin received an invite to the NFL Combine. He's the player that had his hand his hand amputated when he was a baby. His brother plays for the Seahawks. He earned his invite. So I want to see how he's going to do there. Hopefully he performs well enough to make it to the NFL. The other news story that I kind of got a good laugh about was that MLB is supposedly going to try listening in to dugout phone calls this season to try to crack down on sign stealing. Are you kidding me? If you're stupid enough to let your signs get stolen, you deserve to. I look at that as part of the game. There were times where we thought teams were stealing our signals from the sidelines, even at a high school level. Then you change up either who your signaler is, or you change the signals. You prevent teams from reading what you're doing. Yeah,
I agree. And there are times when I enjoy, it's a little bit of a gamesmanship, stealing signs. I was always one to steal signs playing baseball. You look right in the dugout, you see what they're doing. Because most coaches are idiots. They sit right there on one of the balls, of the bucket balls, and they sit there and they give the signs right out in the open. If you're on second base and the pitcher can see it, this guy on second base can see it. And most everyone uses the same exact signs, because if you watch a telecast, I forget, John Smoltz was in the booth I forget when he was in the booth, but I watched a couple games. It was kind of like Tony Romo. You know how you watch Tony Romo? He can read the defense and tell you what's coming. John Smoltz would be sitting there saying this is going to be a slider on the outside lower half of the plate. And then he'd just call on the balls. If he can do that while watching on TV, the other guys are going to be stealing the signs, because most teams use the same exact symbols.
Yeah.
2 fingers for curve, whatever, 1 finger, you point to the side of your leg where you want the fastball to go. You can raise it up. Some of them are really blatant too. They'll do one of these, throw it high and get a guy on base. Then you can steal the signals. But Major League Baseball should not be listening on the phone calls. I agree, Matt. So dumb. But
yeah, and you always have that guy back in the clubhouse too for major league teams who's watching the game. It's like the pitcher who's pitching the next day is watching the game in the clubhouse and watching everything that's being done. I mean, teams use binoculars. They'll have somebody sitting out in the outfield stands. I've been in Pirate games where I see the guy who's sitting there and I'm like, that guy's out of place watching the game. And he's usually in the other team's apparel. I mean, it's just ridiculous what that major league role is. And they have no idea. And I was like you, Rich, I played third base. I always watch that third base coach. I'd be staring him down. I'd have the signs for most teams by the second inning. I'm like, I'm not this stupid. Come on. I'm like, I got him.
Well, if you think about it, they have to have the signs so simple that the guys that don't pay attention, or I mean, I guess in the Major League Baseball, they might even have guys that speak English. So the signs have to be basic. So it has to be very easy to steal them. So I like the gamesmanship of that. So I would agree. Let them steal them if they can, and then get creative with it. You shouldn't be using the same exact signs that Tom Hanks was using in A League of Their Own. That's my ending thought. Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Follow us on social media, Southbound Sports, and have a good one.